Welcome to your first cars video. This is going to be fun and a little challenging. I guarantee by the end you'll be feeling pretty good. There's a few things you want to remember. Number one, these are isolations, so please concentrate on moving just the joint we're working on. You want to keep all the other areas of your body firmly planted and rooted and as still as possible, so no helping from the other joints of your body. Number two, move slowly. If I'm going too fast for you, just slow it down and move to the speed that's comfortable for you. So we'll begin slowly by bringing our chin to our chest and then scraping the chin along that collarbone till you reach the shoulder, at which point you'll turn the ear to the shoulder and then scoop along the back body, keeping the neck long and the shoulders down, and the opposite ear comes to the opposite shoulder. When your ear gets there, you turn the chin to the shoulder and then scrape along the left collarbone till you reach the center. And we're going to go right back into that loop again. Same direction, scraping the chin along the collarbone, leaving the shoulders nice and loose. Ear gets to your shoulder, turn the head, and moving the head along the back body. You're not crunching the neck, you're keeping the neck nice and long and open in the back, shoulders down. Ear gets to the shoulder, turn the chin and scrape along that opposite collarbone once again. And we'll do that one more time. Really taking your time and making that movement slow. You're articulating all those little muscles that connect into your cervical spine as you do these rotations nice and slow. We'll pick the head up just to reset, and then we'll drop it again slowly down and go in the opposite direction. It's really important here to keep your shoulders relaxed. And if you're watching the video closely, you can see sometimes my shoulders start to creep up, or I lean a little bit, and I quickly self-adjust so that I'm standing up straight and my shoulders come back down so that there's no help from other joints of the body. And that's something that's okay to keep reminding yourself as you're working. It's going to sneak in on you. You know, the dynamic of the body is to help where there feels like there's an impingement or shortening of the muscles. So just constantly reminding yourself to relax those other joints, and moving slowly will help you do that. Good. Scraping the chin along the collarbone, and we'll go one more time to the left hand side. Chin along the collarbone, ear to shoulder, turning the head, and now bringing that head nice and long, arcing it through the back body till your right ear comes to shoulder. Turn the chin to meet the shoulder and scrape down the right collarbone back to the center. And we'll pick up the head here. So we're going to move to the upper thoracic spine now. So we're going to give ourselves a little self-hug, and keeping the hips nice and solid, core is engaged, we're going to just bend the upper back forward. I'll show you a side view here so you can see how much I'm actually flexing. It's just within my range of motion. It's a very small movement. I'm not bending all the way forward. So now we're going to turn to our right side and then tilt into the right side deep into the side body and circle around the back without moving my hips at all. It's all in the upper thoracic. So it's a very small circle that you're moving in. You're going to slowly roll through the back body again. You're not going into too much extension depending on the range of motion you have. And you come back around to the center position. Now we're going to turn to the left, leaning into the left side body and repeating the roll around the back, keeping the body nice and long, core stays engaged around the right side all the way through center, turning the body again to the left, and then leaning left and rolling all the way around. I'm only extending as far back as I can without shifting my hips. Good. Rolling slowly up and dropping the arms at your sides, and we're going to move to the scapulas. So isolating the scapulas, and think of it moving in a smooth circle. You'll see we're going to move them up back down and forward. Now we're going to slow it down and take the scapulas up towards your ears, roll them back together towards your spine, then depress them and roll forward, protracting the scapulas, letting them glide along the rib cage as we bring them up and back again, and then gliding them down and gliding forward. Now I'm not moving anything other than my scapulas, those little triangle shaped bones on the sides of my back there. They're moving all of the parts that you see. So we'll also reverse this motion now, going backwards, sliding the scapulas together in towards the spine, then raising them up, sliding them forward, and then bringing them down the back, coming back while they're depressed like that, and then up. So it seems like a box, but you really want to think of it as more of a smooth, non-angular circle that you're moving the scapulas in. And we'll go one more time. Good, being sure to move them in their fullest range of motion. And we'll bring them back to neutral now. So moving on to our shoulder capsule controlled articular rotation, we're going to be rotating from the shoulder joint now. So you can see I'm standing pretty firm. Arm has energy through it like an arrow. My hips are firm, my core is strong, and I slowly raise the arm in front of me, palm facing in, and when I get to 12 o'clock to the top, I'm going to turn my palm outward, so rotating the shoulder at the shoulder joint, and circle the arm behind me, just carving out as much of that range as you can without turning the body. So you really want to make sure your shoulders remain facing forward. So you're not trying to help widen that circle by turning or rotating your body. You're just moving from your shoulder joint and really isolating that joint. So make sure your hips and your shoulders stay facing forward as you bring your arm back, turning that shoulder joint so that your arm then becomes supinated or turned inward, so your palm is facing in once you reach the head, and slowly bringing it down in front of you. So we're going to do that movement again, and I'll give you more direction on the rotation of the arm there. So bringing it all the way up 180 degrees. Once you reach the top of the head, your palm turns to face outward. Then you're carving that circle behind you, continuing to internally now rotate the shoulder so that the palm is facing outward by the time you get to your leg. And then bringing it back at about 45 degrees behind you, you start to rotate that shoulder again, and the palm will come to face internal towards your midline once you get to your head, and then back down in front of you, lowering slowly to your hip. I'm going to turn and face forward to do the left side so that you can really see the arc of the circle that we make. Remember, there's energy through the legs, through the arm, rotating the palm outward, and slowly carving out as much as you can for your range of motion. And again, I had to do a little self-correction right there because my body wanted to rotate and help that shoulder get big, or help that circle get bigger, but I had to self-correct there so that I'm just articulating that shoulder joint. So you'll find yourself self-correcting as you're paying attention to your actual movement and getting that isolation movement really, really lined up. So rotating the palm so it's facing in once you reach the top 12 o'clock there, and slowly bringing it back down in front of you, taking your time, and you'll have the energy is moving through the arm, right? So it's almost like you're moving your arm through like thick air, you know? That's what's helping you to keep a nice slow pace and really stay activated in the joint. Rotating the palm outward and carving, not to any point of pain. You want to stay within, push the edge of your range of motion, but you do not want to create any pain or pinching with that range of motion. So stay, just on the edge of your comfort level. But we are doing these exercises so that your range of motion stays full and fluid and juicy and flexible. So you're challenging yourself as you're doing these movements. And the hand comes up and slowly back down. Resting once again at the hip. Good job. Moving now to the wall so that you can support yourself on the wall or a chair or something to help you stabilize. So we're going to be moving to our hips, isolating each hip. This exercise, you will find a temptation to lean forward or to use the back in order to get a bigger circle. This is not what we want. We want to be thinking about moving the head of the femur in the hip socket. So bending the leg and raising it in front of you, bringing that hip bone out to the side, and then swinging the hip behind you. This is where you're really going to want to tip forward or, use your back to get more surface area. But you want to keep your core strong and remain upright. You're just moving the hip. No other joints are moving. So, and then we'll reverse directions, bringing it behind you, up, back, forward, and into the front, crossing over the midline so you get the inside curve of that joint in there, and then bringing it back to neutral, and we'll raise it up again. Getting that knee as high as you can go, keeping your core engaged, getting it behind you while you rotate, that hip in the socket, bringing your knees back together, and then going in the reverse direction once again. Back, bringing the knee high up and forward, swinging that hip now forward. And across the front line of the body, and then back down to neutral. So you see my arm is being held out that way to help with my balance. I'm irradiating or putting energy through that arm that is not supporting me, just so I'm engaged throughout my entire muscular system is engaged. Now we'll move to the left side, bringing the knee up as high as it can go and out to the side. So now you'll see I swing my foot back behind me, my knee goes forward, and that's from the rotation of the femur head in the hip joint. So the hip capsule is doing all of the movement here. Back and down, and then going right back up, being sure. See, I have a less range of motion on this side if you're watching the video, and that'll be normal for you. You'll find that one side feels much more mobile than the other, and that's where you need some more work. So really fighting for that edge of the range of motion. So you're engaging your muscles and you're saying, how much more can I get? But again, you don't want to move into a place of pain. Good, bringing that leg behind you and all the way back, thinking about the rotation of that femur head, that thigh bone in the joint itself, and then back down, knees are together, and then kicking it back behind you, lifting that knee out to the side and up, and swinging that hip joint forward and up across the body, and then down again to neutral. Good, and that is our hip cars. And we'll take it to the floor now to do our knee, ankle, and toe cars. So bringing your right leg up, your right arm goes underneath it, your left arm locks in with it, and your left hand goes on top of the knee there so you can feel your lower leg bones underneath it. So you're going to turn that foot outward while your leg is bent, and then straightening the knee. You won't be able to get it super straight because of the position, but as straight as you can, and then inverting the foot, bringing the leg slowly down, everting the foot, bringing the leg back up. So we're making kind of a trapezoid shape with our movement. Straightening the leg, turning those bones in. So this is to get as much movement, rotational movement in the knee joint from the lower leg bones moving. And then we're going to reverse our cars here. So we'll bring them up while the foot is inverted, and then evert it while it's straight, bring it back down, invert, straight, and moving slowly, and you can feel how those bones are moving underneath your top hand there that's on top of your knee. Taking your time. The movement is initiating from the knee, not the ankle. So there's a big discernment there as you're making those movements. Good, and then we'll go right into our ankle cars. So this movement, you're just letting the knee hang, over your arm, and the movement is being initiated from the ankle. You can feel again in your left hand whether or not you'll feel a little bit of movement in those bones, but really you want to feel most of the initiation happening, the movement happening from just the ankle itself. So see if you really feel a lot happening underneath your left hand, you want to see if you can isolate that movement just a little more by moving it down towards the ankle. And this might take quite a bit of practice for some of us. I know the first time I started doing these circles, it was my shin muscles were sore, because they hadn't articulated like that in a while. So if you haven't already, switch directions and bring your circle in the opposite direction. Really scraping the outside of that range of motion that you have. Good, and we'll switch sides now. As you can see, the video is moving in a bit of slow motion. I wanted to slow it down for you so you can see the movements a little better. This is about the speed you should be going though. So switching sides, left leg under left knee, right hand wraps on top of the knee, and we'll start the knee cars with the foot everted, pointing outward, raising it up, pointing it inward and down, and doing a couple rounds of that here. Really feeling the movement initiate from the knee. That is building proprioception. So you're growing awareness between movement that's initiated from the knee or initiated from the ankle and the foot is a big proprioceptive leap for many of us who will be practicing this. And then we'll go in the opposite direction. Ankle points in, leg comes up, and then we rotate externally, foot comes down, rotate internally, up. Good. Rotate inward, raise the knee up. Really feeling that end range where your joint wants to stop. And we'll do our ankle rolls now. Someone put this movement to me like your foot is a spatula and you're scraping cake batter off of the inside of a bowl. You really want to use that curve of the foot to get the full range of motion, scooping your range of motion out in that ankle, fighting for all that you can get there, working all those tiny little tendons, all those tiny little fibers in there, so that your ankle stays nice and flexible. And switching directions. I tend to do more passes on the ankle just because they feel so good. So you're welcome to do more passes on any particular joint that feels like it wants extra attention for you. Good, and then lastly, we'll move to our toes. So going back to the right foot, we're going to work on isolating our big toe and then our other 4 toes, and we'll do that by practicing a lift. So starting with all 5 toes on the ground, and then we lift our big toe up. And doing 4 or 5 of those lifts while you keep the other toes on the ground, and then we switch. Keeping your big toe planted, lift up all the other toes. And then we'll do a wave. So you pick up all 5 toes and then you wave them down onto the ground. See if you can do it one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can try to reverse it if you want to, picking it up 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, if that works for you. This one's a tough one for people. So switching feet. And don't get frustrated if you can't do this at first. It is possible to practice, and you will get better at isolating your toes. I happen to have pretty good toe control, so I can actually put my toes down one by one. I don't have a ton of control there, and again, the last movement is lifting all the toes up and then putting them down one by one. Otherwise, maybe you just put down the big toe and then the other 4 toes follow it. So you can try to make a wave, but if you can't do that, just move it like two chunks. The big toe and then the rest of the toes together, and keep practicing that, and you'll learn how to isolate those muscles. That's proprioception building. So that's the end of CARS video 1. You guys have done a great job.